advert, but it's live.
I mean, there's always going to be an advert, isn't there?
Cafu and Van Persie. Van Persie's holding a PlayStation 4.
Oh, I'm glad we're being advertised. We're advertising foot gambling mechanics or Ultimate Team or whatever the fuck it's called these days.
Oh yeah, because they have like legendary players or something.
Yeah, 4,000 different hairstyle David Beckhams or something like that.
Yeah, how is Cafu not in it already?
He must be, right.
Well, they're just advertising now that he's been added to it, so I know it's been going on for a while, that thing. So I'm just thinking, well, your whole game's broken if Cafu's not in it, so.
Exactly, they just had to put in all those different skinned Beckham haircuts, so it's one of them's at level 91, one of them's level 92, one of them's level 93. I don't know how that shit works.
They dropped Ronaldo from 92 to 91, and the disrespect that they put on that man's name.
Oh no, really?
Yeah.
Oh, brutal. Oh, that's not good. Well, there's not much we can do about it. Welcome then, everybody, to Tanked Up, the podcast about video games, shitting on fucking rolled out every year the same bollocks video games, and craft beer, which changes all the time and is excellent for it. I'm one of your hosts, Ben, here with Lucy.
Yeah, games suck.
Not all games.
Most of them.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. We shall see what we think about the games we've been playing this evening, what we want to chat about. I'm the only one drinking this evening. Potential COVID floating around the house. So, as I've done every single time, this has been a potential thing. I'm going to just drink through it. So, I've got 2 big beers with me. So, I'm starting with an 8.5% double IPA. This one is from Overtone and is called Finger Guns Pew Pew, which is an excellent name and just has a kind of like a Star Warsy sort of, or even just a space kind of shape on it, but also it looks like an eye.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Very colourful eye, but yeah.
Yeah. It tells me 5 hops, Pew Pew. This dipper has explosions of tropical, citrus and pine flavours. It's got Citra, Mosaic, Azaka, Eldorado and Sultana in it. Ooh, I had a Sultana last week in the Good Chemistry beer. Adel in the chat, hey. Obviously, with him being in Canada, he can't be with us for the episode. I think next week, though, is his return, I believe. If my dates are correct, potentially. Don't quote me on that.
He may be jet-lagged.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he may jump in the chat and let us know. But yeah, Canada's internet is making it too flaky for him. But I will pour this. I will see what it is like. It's got a nice nose. That kicked in straight away, which is good. It does have a nice nose. Very tropical on the nose. Maybe a touch of citrus as well in there. You can see it's got a very foamy head.
Yeah.
Not quite orangey, little more of a straw, a little bit more yellow to it, but a solid block of colour, which doesn't even lighten around the edges. So
it's a bit frothy.
That's dissipated a little bit. Not much. But it's got an interesting flavour. You're definitely getting those tropical notes, getting a little bit of citrus as well. But in there is an odd little flavour, kind of throwing everything off. It doesn't quite hit that, as we've talked about with dippers, it doesn't quite hit that more earthy kind of vegetable side of things. It's edging that way, but it doesn't get there. It still sticks in this kind of like fruity sort of space. But I think it's got a similar vibe to that Good Chemistry beer last week, and I think the Sultana is doing a lot in this, as it did in the Good Chemistry beer. It doesn't feel sort of, as the Good Chemistry beer did, a little bit more of a kind of a prune sort of flavour, not sort of raisins and sweet. It kind of similar, but a little bit more, not bitter. What are they? They're almost a little bit kind of danker, really.
Okay.
Like prunes over, say, raisins or sultana kind of. It doesn't quite have the same sort of sweetness to it. So this is the same. It's got a bit of a sweetness. It's got those tropical hits. You're then getting a little bit of citrus in as well, just to kind of give a little bit of a tongue tingle almost. And then it has, as I say, this sort of not quite earthy note to it. It doesn't pull all that way across. It's an interesting combination. It's a big flavour as well.
Interesting. I need to try it with sultana then.
It almost that kind of combination of flavors as well is starting to not break down but open up a little bit more as I've now chugged half of this glass, and I'm definitely getting a lot more of the alcohol. So this feels like it's got a nice big alcohol hit to it, and I think that's part of that initial confusion that I got, that it's actually a little bit of alcohol burn on this, which for an 8.5% you do get, and I think that's adding to it as well. So you're getting that slight burn on the back, which as the flavours are kind of moving towards that, and now I assume every time I sip it, that burn will kind of be present. It flows quite nicely into that. And it's almost edging on a, not a sort of flavoured spirit or something like that, but it's with that alcohol burn really now coming through the more I've drank it. It almost feels like I could be drinking something like a very almost that kind of sultana, and they're giving almost not an aniseed kind of flavour, but with that alcohol burn, it definitely kind of edges towards that as well. So it's a very interesting beer.
How carbonated is it? Because when you think of like liqueur, yes, you're getting a lot of sweetness, but you're just thinking it's quite dry and flat in flavour. Does this have like any hoppiness, any carbonation?
So it's got a little bit of carbonation, only very slightly right at the start, and then it flattens completely through the rest of that flavour. And actually at the end, or what's left, the mouthfeel that remains, absolutely feels more like I've had a juice. It's flat, it's very smooth right at that end after that carbonation has gone. So it kind of smooths out whilst giving you that alcohol hit as well. Which again is an interesting combination of the flavour to the mouthfeel. It kind of almost feels like two different beers, not smashed together, but that it flows through those parts very, very well. I mean, I will absolutely nail this beer, but I think, as I said with both of the beers I drank last week when we had the guys from Rock Digital on, I don't think I'd reach for it after I'd had one. One is probably enough, and I definitely feel that from this. It'd be interesting how I then feel about the next beer, which ups the percentage just a touch as well. And we will see. But yeah, this is nice.
So the sweetness in it, like, is that mainly coming from the alcohol, or is it a bit of that sultana, a bit more of the fruit in it?
I think it's definitely a bit more of the fruit. So it's got Citra, Mosaic, Zaka, Eldorado, and Sultana. So you definitely feel the Citra and Mosaic in there. So it's got a little bit of a not quite grapefruity sort of tropical start to it. It's maybe something a little bit more sweet, a little bit lighter than that. But again, you're getting maybe a nice sort of zesty lime in there as well, which again adds to that kind of boozy feel to it. because you're getting that kind of that tongue tingly kind of sensation as well. So I think this is just a very well made beer with a lot of stuff that's been thrown in, which just works well together to kind of present this flavour, which flows very nicely through a few different flavour profiles, and actually leaves you just going, yeah, I will absolutely reach for this again in a moment. Okay. It's a little dry, so when that smoothness and that sort of more juicy feel kicks in, it does leave you quite dry quite quickly. So I do want to pick this back up to hit that carbonation, hit that bit of freshness, and then have that flow again of those flavours. So yeah, I mean it's very well made. Overtone just seemed to hit dippers a little bit differently to most people, but in a way that you go, oh, it's a dipper from Overtone, I will absolutely drink this beer.
Yeah, I need to get my hands on a bit more Overtone. I just see their beers and it's like, oof, it's like £8 or something like that. And
yeah.
It's like, oof.
I think this one was close. This one was close to that, and it's about £7, something like that. So,
yeah,
but it's good. It's really nice. And you know, if you're us in this position to kind of do the podcast and have these kind of set beers for a week as such, you kind of feel that, or I do at least, that I can be like, yeah, £8, £10 a beer, cool. I'll get a couple of those for the podcast, and the stuff I drink through the week will be New Bristol Brewery, Wiper and Tree.
Just £2 for a 4-pack of Swill.
Or I mean, exactly. Or or you get one Duval for £2 in supermarkets most of the time now, don't you? And that probably tastes better and gives you the same hit that the 4-pack of shite will give you, because that's like 8.5%, isn't it? Something like that. 8.2.
Ridiculous value.
Yeah, absolutely.
Crazy.
Good. I will continue drinking this beer, but let's jump into the games that we have been playing. I know we've got sort of 3 games that we've been provided codes for to review this evening. So do you want to jump into the game that we've both played first?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah?
Why not? Yeah.
Okay. So Toem, Toem. Odd little name for a game.
I don't know what it means exactly.
I don't, and I can't remember. I don't know whether it's a sub heading for the game. I'll just jump into my library on Steam quickly. No, it is just Toem, but I've seen it advertised. I can't remember the tagline for it. Oh, here you go. It's in one of their images. A photo adventure. Okay. So it kind of,
right.
it tells you kind of what it is up front, because I guess Toem is so abstract in its use that no one will know what it is. But I absolutely love this game. I think it's fantastic. It's a lovely little game.
Yes, it's delightful. It's very twee and very cute, very cutesy. It's just very low impact, relaxing cup of tea game. Yeah,
completely.
Have you finished it?
I have finished it. Yes.
Okay. Right. I'm on the last area.
Okay.
It's one of those games where it's like I want to play it for the rest of time. It's just like, but I can't possibly play it any slower than I am just enjoying it. So
yeah.
Well, it's like, yes, just finish it, Lucy. It's just finish it.
And I will say as well, it is it's a game that when you finish it, you can then go back out into the world.
Yeah.
So you don't have to. Yeah, you don't have to have done everything in Toem before you get to the end. So you are a character going on a summer vacation, a journey to the mountain of Toem, to essentially take a picture at the top of the mountain. But along the way, you go to lots of different locations, and you take pictures. And a lot of the time, or the main mechanic is, you cannot go to the next area until you have so many stamps on your card. And the way you get stamps is by taking pictures of things for people, and if you do that, they will give you a stamp.
And they frame it as you're helping out the community, and
yes,
you're basically helping these very, very eccentric characters, and like whole range of them. Like there's a snowman that you help out. There's, you know, ghosts that you help out. It helping them out through the medium of taking photos. And you know, we'll get into like how they change up the puzzles with the photos. Yeah, you get your bus stamps, which maybe that should be. I mean, this is a very socialist society.
Yes, absolutely.
Like, it would be nice if, you know, I could get a free bus pass by not living till over 60. I don't even know if they offer those now anymore. But just by being a good citizen, get a free bus pass. That would be nice.
I completely agree, and the idea is that you are helping people out with their photos, and later on, not just kind of with the photos, but taking a photo might then trigger something to happen, in which case you get an item which you then can give to somebody. And as you say, there are a few different kind of puzzles and how they sort of work, but all of them are about the idea of supporting someone, or helping someone, showing someone where something is, or bringing something back to them. You know, allowing people to then make their own kind of journeys, and just, you know, not even that, just make some characters kind of happy and stuff.
Yeah.
There was one in one of the middle kind of levels where you get you don't get kind of abilities, but you get the chance to like honk a horn, make a noise almost when you're taking a photo, which will both
get a horn, a little apparatus,
which will open up
you get like
areas.
a tripod. And
yes.
Get a horn, and
And I didn't use the tripod for ages until I realised actually there are some puzzles where I'm like, oh, I need to be somewhere else, and the tripod could be there where I should be, but I have to be over here. And so, but
you can also do a selfie.
Yes, and set it back much further as well to be set in the scene and things like that. And it's kind of a game as well, which it's in black and white, but it's not quite the same aesthetic as like Minute or Gatto Roboto. You know, those very kind of like 1-bit games. It's in black and white, but it's all almost kind of ink drawn.
Really thick lines for the blacks, where it contrasts, you know, really well with the whites, and everything's like it's like cardboard cutouts almost. All the characters and everything are like 2D, whereas the buildings, the bigger, you know, assets are like 3D, and you can rotate the world probably about 270 degrees. So it is in 3D, but it just works really well. You have these like 2D, almost static characters. They're not static; they do move around the world, but it's like they are very much in 2D. Whereas, you know, everything around them is, you know, on a 3D plane. It works really well.
It does. I love the one that was a sock. In like the early levels, just sat on a bench, and he's a person, but his head is a sock, and it leans very much into that kind of odd caricature of various different things. And there's people, there's also animals, sort of anthropomorphized animals as well, who are characters in this. But then, as you said, Lucy, ghosts as well, people who are socks. Lots of different things are pulled into this to make a very kind of diverse and odd setting, which is fantastic, especially in this. And it's almost like, what's the Mario one? Papercrafty kind of sort of
Paper Mario.
Paper Mario, yes.
Exactly.
But almost like a black and white, like tearaway or something like that as well. It has that kind of vibe to it, which I thought was kind of very approachable, but also allows you to focus a little bit more in the puzzles. If everything was coloured, it would make it maybe a little bit more difficult to pinpoint some of the things that you're kind of looking for within that world. Whereas everything is actually quite stark in its aesthetic, you can scan very quickly through things and be like, it's not that, it's not that, it's not that, it's not that. Oh, cool, look at this. Oh, yeah, there it
absolutely.
is. So, yeah.
And it helps that you can like zoom out. You see it as like this. I guess it's isometric kind of view, and you can zoom out and zoom in outside of the camera, just in like normal controlling your character. And the good thing about it is that it has this like little diorama kind of view to it, so it's like you can zoom all the way out and look at the whole scene, and then you can zoom all the way in to get like to see like around different corners, see different things, and also using your camera you can see different angles that you maybe can't rotating 270 degrees from a far out kind of angle. So yeah, you can get really in there, and you can take, I mean, I notice there's a limit on the amount of photos you can take.
Yes, there is. It like
about 158 or something like that?
I think it's 128, I think.
Okay, yeah. So I was just like, am I gonna run out of like camera roll for my Polaroid camera or something? So I was a bit hesitant in taking like just random photos that I thought, oh, this is cool and stuff like that. So that was a bit, but I was just spamming F12 on Steam and just taking shots of everything else.
Well, in the photo album where you collect these photos, you can delete them, which then just frees that space back up again. It's not that you have 128 shots available to you. It's you have 128 spaces in the photo album.
Oh, that's all right then. I was thinking more Pokemon Snap, where you actually run out of film. So, okay, interesting.
Yeah, it allows you that little bit of freedom as well. And there's a few things, when you're going through each of these levels, and so as we were saying, sort of like scenes, each of the levels or each of the areas that you go to, and there's 5, I think. Each of the areas you go to is made up of several of these scenes. So the first area is maybe 8 scenes, the next one is perhaps 10, and then the next is 12, and they grow very gradually, which I thought was quite nice. And they, the first one kind of very much sets you of being like, you can go this way, you can go this way, you can go this way, and then they start to connect to each other. So there's a city level, and actually you could walk around all of it and get back to the beginning again. There's a couple of spaces kind of off of that, so the map design works quite well in that you at first feel a little bit lost, but you orient yourself pretty quickly to knowing where these things are, which very much then helps with someone going, I need to find this, and you go, I know exactly where that is, go across and you move through the scenes until you get to that place. You take the photo, and I mean, you can absolutely sit there and play this game in a kind of min-max kind of way and be like, right, I have these 10 things. I'll hit this and do that, 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 and then I'll talk to this person, talk to this person, talk to this person, and then I'll go and do this and do that. That's kind of not the way to play this game.
A speed run of this game would be cool to see, but
absolutely.
In practice, it's like, can't be doing that.
It sort of elicits from you a calmness, just this sense that nothing needs to be rushed. Some of these characters will absolutely sit there and say, "Oh, I've got to get this done," and you're like, "Yeah, but don't worry about it. Like, you'll be right. You'll be fine. You'll be fine." It's also, I think, written very well. A lot of the stuff is very small. You're not getting a huge amount of dialogue from some of these characters, and one of them might be, "Hey, I really want a photo of this. and then you go back and you take the photo to them that you've snapped. They go, hey, thanks very much, that really helps me because of this, and then that's it. Some of them are ridiculously comedic. And there was one guy who said, I want you to, I think it was snap a fashion show.
Yes, yeah.
And then I want you to take a photo of the best moustache in the town. And this character obviously has this huge moustache. I'm like, well, there's photo number one. But can I then go around? It was almost, yes. Yeah. And I snapped a photo of him, but then I wandered around looking at all of the other characters thinking, oh, does anyone have a better moustache than this character? And will I be penalised for not just picking the guy with this guy with the moustache? But it's all very... what's the word? It's... Light-hearted, absolutely, and nothing is dire. There are no kind of awful consequences to anything. It is just very, very easy to take in and kind of experience.
Yeah, and all your requests are put in this is put on this community card, which is just this log of all the things you have to do, and you can access that at any time. It's like, oh, I need to do this, I need to do that. Take a picture of this, take a picture of that, and some of the things that you get later on in the levels, like for example the horn, you can go back and use that in puzzles from like other areas, and so far like pretty close to the end. None of the puzzles have felt like repetitive or anything like that. Every puzzle seems different, every character seems different, every request seems different. Like you are just fundamentally just taking photos of things, so you just think, how much can they stretch that? But all the different scenarios that you do in it, like there are puzzles where it's like, okay, I have to take several pictures of graffiti in the world or something like that, and you have these photo challenges where you have to, they say, okay, find this and this, and it's like, come back to me once you found pictures of all of these. And there are ones where it's like, okay, this guy is at the top of a lighthouse and there's some boats that are just like marooned out there because he has a horn instead of a light, so I guess it's not a lighthouse, I guess it's a horn house. Which sounds like a brothel, maybe it is. Well, I went on
only in the day, obviously, when it's sunny, like
But basically, you had to like use your viewfinder and find where all these shipwrecked boats were, and you had to direct him where he should blow the horn to them. In his house, he might be. Is he a sea otter? I don't know. But if you honk at his laptop, he's chatting to some some cat friend or something.
Yeah.
Like that.
There's a couple of random laptops. I never worked out whether they actually did anything. They're sat on a table or a desk or something, and they shake very slightly, which suggests that you can do something. And when you honk at them, yes, they open. And there were a few of them through the levels, but I never ascertained whether that did anything or whether there was an achievement and perhaps I'd missed one, maybe that I hadn't opened somewhere.
I don't think so.
But yeah, none of them kind of really did anything apart from being like, oh yeah, you're into this kind of stuff. Cool, that's fine.
Which is cool, just to find like little weird things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
In these areas, so yeah.
I think one of my favourite quests or chances to get a stamp didn't involve the camera at all. There's one in a level where a balloon family is having a party.
I haven't done this one yet.
And the balloon boy has blown away. And basically, you have to get him back. And you go and find him, and you get him back. You don't even use the camera. You just do that, and it just shows that variety of kind of quests. That yes, it's like a fetch quest, but it's got a layer of character to it, and it's not surrounded by all of these other fetch quests. In that you're taking photos of all. Yes, I'm taking a photo of something and taking it back to someone is kind of like a fetch quest, but none of it ever feels like that. It all feels very sort of like natural, and just like, oh yeah, this guy said I need to go and find this, so here's a photo of that. Cool. And that might give you a little bit of exposition, a little bit of world building, something like that, in taking that photo and them giving you some kind of answer or some kind of world building to it. So yeah, it's all just very well put together as like a whole kind of package.
Yeah, it's probably about 4.5, 5 hours long. If you probably collect everything. So it's not the longest of games, so you could probably maybe even stretch it out to like 6 hours. But just being in that world, taking photos, everything's so like very carefully detailed, and
Yes.
you clearly put so much love into it, and it shows. It's like every like scene is so expressive and with so much character, and it's just a joy to be in that world.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think at the moment I've got one task that I haven't done.
Okay.
And I cannot figure out. I do not know what I'm meant to do for it. But
which one is it?
I mean, we can discuss it off air. It's the one for the art lady in the city.
I'm like halfway there.
Okay, I do not know what I need to even take.
The
distorted one. I got no idea.
I think it involves using mud.
So I did think this, and I have taken several things back, but I'm obviously not taking a photo of the correct thing to take back to her to get my stamp.
They say when I bring it back, it needs to have a label or a title on it.
Oh.
So when I take something back that's got mud on it, so I'm thinking, do I take a picture of a sign with mud over? Like something that's actually written, like one of the place names? I don't know. I think I'm halfway there.
So that seems like a very abstract request.
It's art.
But it is. None of the other ones were kind of like that. A lot of them were very sort of self-explanatory in what you needed to kind of go and do.
Some of them were like still required a little bit of thought. But,
yes.
You could get there even after a little while. So.
Completely.
But this one.
And there's some
me as well.
There's some sort of like special photos that you can take as well, right? So you will take a photo of something, and they usually they can be characters after you've done the quest for them, or various things that you see kind of throughout the world. But rather than showing you the photo that they've shown, they will show you a pre-rendered image of a photo of that character. So there's also those kinds of collectibles in there as well, if you really want to get kind of deeper into this. And the reason I sort of mentioned only having one quest left was that I'd only played 3.3 hours of it, so it's about 3 hours and 20 minutes, something like that of the game. And I mean, I don't know why. I think I just connected so quickly with what I needed to do. I was like, cool, yes, this, and this. I can see this. I can see exactly how this is kind of flowing. It's a very easy game to read.
Yeah,
which is great.
I spent, was it 3.8 hours in it, and I did have like maybe half an hour of downtime, but or just idle time, whatever. And I'm almost finished, but it's like I still have some things to mop up. So
yeah,
just one or two things from each world. So, but yeah, it's a perfect length for me.
Yeah, absolutely. yeah, completely. As it's such a short game, how did you hit it in one go? Or have you had a couple of sessions with it?
No, I've been playing it the last 2 days, just like I call it lunch, but I just stop working. But just like in the afternoon when I come back from the gym, it's like I'm shattered. I want to play something calming with a cup of tea,
Yep.
and this has been perfect. So
Nice.
yeah.
Nice. Good. I will say that I have one criticism,
Mhm.
and that is actually in how you control the camera.
Okay.
I It's not confusing. It's a very easy thing to do, but I played it on the pad,
Yes. Same.
and the kind of like the zoom in and zoom out is on one of the sticks.
Yeah. Right stick. Yeah.
And then the other stick is moving around, sort of like the scene, and taking the photo is one of the face buttons. And you can do other things with sort of like the face buttons as well. And I think I'm just so ingrained in like photo modes from like Ghost of Tsushima and these bigger games that I'm kind of not. It feels like a very intuitive set of controls for being in camera mode, and I'm so ingrained now in not abstract controls, but being in a specific mode within a game. They're like, oh, you now have to, if you want to move this, you have to be on this. You have to press down, and then you can move this thing, the aperture, or setting it in a different space, or it's the shoulder buttons which will set the height or the distance and things like this. Every time I played the game maybe in 4 sessions. And I think every time I went back into it, it took me a couple of minutes to get back into the controls of the photo mode. Only because, again, I'm playing Ghost of Tsushima against this, so I'm in that kind of photo mode as well. That it is just it's a little bit different. But I think if you're not doing those other kinds of games, then actually it's a very good control system. It just happened for me that it wasn't
coincided with Ghost of Tsushima.
Exactly.
I'm not playing Ghost of Tsushima. It's fairly easy to operate. That being said, I did have to get used to the zooming in on the right stick, zooming in and out the right stick. But after what 20 minutes, it's just like, okay, I know how to do this. It just becomes ingrained. So
yeah.
And
it's odd. I always think of moving on the right stick. So again, I was kind of zooming in and out, but actually moving, and I'm like, oh no, I didn't want to move. I wanted to zoom, so it just threw me very slightly. And again, that is, I think, because I'm so used to the way that lots of other games kind of work, that if you go into this, you will pick it up very, very quickly. It is very easy to understand.
Because usually zooms, like, sometimes, most of the time might be on the triggers or something like that. So
yeah,
I get you.
Yeah. And I suppose as a final thought, I don't know if anyone development team wise came across from some other games, but lots of the sound design was very similar to stuff like Minute. The noises that the characters made, and those sorts of things. It's got that kind of feel to it as well. In that you kind of, once you start to hear the sounds, you'll kind of get it, right? You're like, oh yeah, I know this set of this sound sort of scape that they are kind of going for. Yeah, you pick up on that very quickly. And I think that adds very much in with the black and white aesthetic as well.
Yeah.
That everything feels a little bit kind of abstract, in that with the characters that they've got, with the sound that they've got kind of going, but also very formed. It's not abstract in that it's completely out there and you're not going to recognise it, but you might get characters that go, and you're like, cool. Standard character kind of chat when you don't want people to kind of talk, and some of the noises and sound effects and things like that, and again pick up kind of very easily.
Just like the shutter of the camera as you take a picture and like zooming in and out, and just it's all really good. Just it's got a nice crunchy feeling just to like open up your backpack or your community card, and just really good UI and really good sound design just mixed up with that. Really good.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, saying about opening up the backpack, I think it's very clever that for some things they've got a very limited set of kind of wearable items, but actually some of the solutions lean into that as well,
Yeah.
which is another clever little twist on kind of what you're looking to do as well. Good, nice.
Yeah,
So I
I
think,
really enjoyed Toem.
yeah, I did as well. I think it's going to be one of those games that I think about kind of all year, really, just because of how kind of relaxed it is.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah,
Awesome. Okay, good.
relaxing
Good.
games.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I will move on to a game which is not relaxing, but it kind of that doesn't want to be relaxing. I don't think it wants to be
Right.
relaxing, but it's a game you can sit back and kind of take in. It's not something that is frantic in those kinds of sense. But I've been playing a lot of Road 96, and have been playing it on stream, so people can go and watch on the YouTube, or there'll be some VODs. I don't know if a couple of them might have turned out, but you can watch the VODs of me playing Road 96 as well on the Twitch. And Road 96 is kind of like a narrative adventure game. You are choosing a character to move through the world as, to get to Road 96, to escape the country that you are living in, right? And you're given... this game is full of exposition. And full of choice as well, actually. So it's a first-person perspective, and you can move around an environment, and the goal is basically to get to the border of the country and escape. But kind of on the way, you do it in several stages. So you might start as character X, and as you progress through each episode, you start as a different character, which will start and position themselves in a different place within the country to get to Road 96, which on the map is the pinnacle right up here, and all your routes will go up towards that. And you meet lots of characters kind of on the way. So each teenager that you're playing as, because it's all teenagers,
Right.
trying to escape the country, each teenager you're playing as will have a different route and will maybe make 4 or 5 stops on the way to get to Road 96. And you will meet this cast of characters which range from complete insanity to characters that you do connect with,
Yeah.
and characters then that you absolutely hate.
Okay,
And
good range.
written and done in such a good way that the characters aren't kind of, oh hey, let's kind of just do this thing, and like, oh yeah, all right, fine, whatever. A lot of them I felt and I found that I was like, yes, let's do this together, or no, fuck you, I absolutely do not want to do this, that you're pushing me to kind of do. And I think it's a very well written game.
Okay.
It's got this sort of cel shaded aesthetic to it, which looks great and works very well in these very small sort of scenes. So again, early on in the game, and everyone's game will be slightly different, because I don't think many people will start in the same place.
Right.
And I'd really like to know and understand the technology behind how procedural this kind of game is. Is it just that they've got like 20 starting places and you will then always hit the same people on said places, or is it you started here and then there's 12 permutations of how you can move up through this map to get to Road 96? But you meet these characters on the way, and you're kind of brought into their stories as well, all of which are intertwined. So it's quite a nice, concise narrative, in that what's happening in the world can be boiled down to the characters that you meet. But it's still got this big overarching kind of thing going on across the world, this big storyline which links all of these characters in some kind of way, and again links you as the player character in getting out of the country and how you kind of react to all of these different things. But it is absolutely a narrative game, and you've got choices to make. You can choose to, say certain dialogue options to characters which might endear them to you, and actually they take you down the road a little bit further to get you closer to the border, or they don't and they dump you off earlier, and you then have to meet another character perhaps to push you on a little bit further, or take the bus or walk, and these kinds of things. But I say it's so well written because a lot of the time, and you will absolutely see this if you watch me playing, I will think something and that will be one of the options that pops up.
Okay.
And I'll be like, no, fuck you, to one of these characters. And one of the options will be not no fuck you, but it will be nah, I'm not doing that. Or one of the characters will say something, I'll be like, what? Why would you do that? And I very much said this on stream, and it pops up like, what? Question mark. I'm like, yep, I'm absolutely choosing that answer because it was my initial reaction to what this character had said. I think it's
clearly play tested this a lot. And
absolutely, absolutely, and it feels just very natural. Yeah. I mean, of course, all games are open to interpretation, and some people will sit there and probably play this through and go, oh no, I didn't think that at all. No option has come up for me in this scenario. But it presents things in not kind of like polar opposites, but at least in a way that it feels natural in being like, my reaction to this will either be, what are you talking about, or no, I get it. And they are the options that kind of come up. So it just feels really natural in the way that it's written, and also the way that characters kind of talk to you as well. There's this big cast of characters, and all of them are very, very different. And as I say, some of which endear to you very quickly in the way that their story kind of unfolds and how you talk to them and the connection that you kind of make. And some of them are just assholes. Just plain assholes. And again, you will see my reaction to certain characters if you do watch me play through, because there were characters that were like, yeah, I will absolutely go with you and do this, and some of them like, no, absolutely not. Fuck you. Yeah. Fuck everything that you're doing. I'm done. I'm gone. And I love that game for it. That it's evoking such a reaction from me, and it's so political as well. Like the whole story is surrounded or revolves around this election that's taking place. A country that has been under a Tory or Conservative government,
or authoritarian.
That's what it is. Yes, authoritarian. It's not quite fascist, but it's on its way. Yes, an authoritarian government, and you're pushed, I think, instantly to think, because your teens escaping from this country, you're pushed very quickly to think, well, this isn't the right answer for what this country is kind of doing. And lots of characters that are very endearing also sort of think this, and lots of the characters that are maybe a bit more brash or abrasive think kind of the opposite. So this definitely the game leans a certain way, but I like that from the game. It's Ubisoft going, oh no, we are political, don't worry about it.
Saying nothing.
Yes, rather than being like, oh no, it's just a thing, innit? It's just a fake scenario, and none of the characters have any thoughts by themselves whatsoever.
Ubisoft is the epitome of both sides.
It's like a fence. It is just a fence. I was going to say a fence for sexual. Yeah. Ubiquitous, a fence for sexual fucking harassment, but like so Road 96 is not that at all. They've very much put out what their kind of thoughts are on politics. You can absolutely read that through the decisions that you kind of make in this game, but it kind of feels open enough that there's some decisions that will bring up a little icon next to them, one of which is a fist, one of which is a hand with a piece of paper in, which I've taken to mean you should vote, because some of the text that's come with it is, and then another one which I can't remember what it is. But I have gone down the route that I will push this kind of like voting choice, irrelevant of which new character in every episode is a new character making that journey. I will pick voting every single time, because I want to see if I'm hitting this and I'm hitting voting every time, is it making an impact on the world? Like what is this kind of changing throughout this? And I've not finished the game yet. I've yet to kind of see the result of this, but I think I'm 4 runs in, and so far I don't seem to see a difference, but that doesn't mean it isn't completely different to had I have picked something else, earlier. It's just maybe a little bit more subtle than thinking, oh, all right, now every character is now going to think this because I have chosen this. It's building towards that, perhaps. So I will have kind of thoughts on the finale, how the game kind of finishes, and that sort of stuff later down the line. But everything is building into a very well-made game.
Good. I'm interested to see how that ends, and as you say, like, if your choices, this does seem like a game where it's like not quite like the last stop, which none of your choices really made any difference. It seems to be very much tailored to, like, yes, your choices will lead you down a certain path. So yeah, interesting. This Road 96, our good friend Corey, he said that it's like one of his favourite games this year. So.
Yes, yeah. And again, if you want to watch someone else playing Road 96, Corey MC Fixer has some videos, I think, on his channel over on YouTube as well, to be able to go and look at. So I haven't done that yet. I'm waiting until I finish the game before I look at anyone else's run through of this. I did see, I think, maybe it might have been a clip or something like that of someone else playing, and their first character started on a completely different position to mine. Every time you go into a new character, it shows you the map again, but will show you every character that you have taken up and the route that they have taken up through, and then that cast of non-playable characters which appear, and it will show you, like, you've done this and then you hit this character and you've done this and then you've interacted with this character and moved through. And so when you start a new character on day 22 or something like that, it will show you all of those things that you've done. So I did happen to see someone who had started in a completely different position. So again, another interesting point, that is it completely different for everyone, or, as I said, is it okay, there is 20 different characters, 20 different starting positions, and you will hit these all of these things on the way through. So actually, your playthrough 1 will start here, and then you can pick a character which might start over here, and then pick a character which might start here, and here, and here, and you will hit these, and you might 100% one of these side characters, or one of these NPCs. You might 100% their story through your playthrough, but actually, through your playthrough, until you get to the final date, which is election day, you might have only 100%ed 2 or 3 of the characters, and actually you play the game through again, and you will start somewhere else, make other choices and do things, and 100% other characters, and see what the final outcome may be. So I really want to get into the technical side of this game, and see.
I'd imagine there's a few variables that are, like, subject to, like, that procedural generation. It sounds like, but I imagine like the authored like narrative parts of it, like the big notes that they want to hit, and just like they probably feature in everybody's playthrough, but it
Yeah,
might be at a
sure. Yeah,
different
yeah.
time or a different character or something like that. So
Yeah, and I'd like to see if they're different kind of endings as well. You know,
hmm
if I've maybe 100%ed this character and this character, does that give me a different ending if I've 100%ed the next two characters?
this is
And
this is a job for someone who's very keen and put like
oh,
YouTube fun
absolutely.
violations.
Yes. Once I've done one playthrough, I will then be searching YouTube for someone who has done that exact thing, and seeing kind of how that works, or delving into like if there are any podcasts or YouTube videos with the developers who have gone into the detail of how they have produced this game. So yeah, I'll definitely be leaning into that a little bit more once I've gone through it
Yeah.
for the first kind of time. So I'll report back at some point in the coming weeks on when I have finished this, or you can just watch me play it through each episode. There'll be a fourth episode up. Actually, probably before this goes on the YouTube, either tomorrow or Thursday. So before Tanks Up goes up for everyone. But yeah, unfortunately, as I chatted about at the start, COVID is now possibly in my house. So my kid is off school tomorrow. So there won't be another episode tomorrow. It will come next week, maybe, when I actually finish the game. And it's one that I think I will not play off stream. I think I will, because I've started it and I've now played 4 runs, and there's probably only maybe 6 or 7 until you get to the end of the game, that I will just take the chance to stream my play, have that video of that episode, and stick it up so someone can see my entire run through kind of this game if they wanted to, rather than me kind of just like jumping in and be like, oh yeah, I finished it, I'm done.
Do you have to show the school a positive test?
I don't know. I haven't contacted them yet.
I'm just thinking how if this was when I was at school, I'd be testing positive for COVID like every week.
I mean, well, and this is the thing, right? The lateral flow for her came back as positive, so we've got her booked in for a PCR in the morning, which is before school. But of course, we have to then, as the government have said, she has to isolate until the result comes back. So she'll be hanging out at home tomorrow, at least, if not the next day, if the result doesn't, depending on how quickly that kind of comes back.
I'd be telling my parents I feel I have COVID like every time. I just miss like so much school.
Oh, mate.
I want to play GTA 3 today.
Yeah, she's 5. She absolutely loves school because she can just go and hang out with her friends, and all she does is play all day. She doesn't do anything. She just plays all day. So
I guess
she reads some books. She does some writing.
I'm glad
that's
she
about
enjoys
it.
School. Yeah. I hated it from the jump. So
I don't disagree. I did as well. So I'm very glad. I'm incredibly glad that she enjoys school.
It's an easier life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Instead of just thinking, why am I here when I could be at home playing with Lego?
Yes, and that's going to be the thing tomorrow, where I have calls and emails coming in. I'm like, do you want to just do some drawing for a little bit? Just sit here and do some drawing, and I'll be back in like 20 minutes time. I'll see in a little bit. I mean, especially since I got that Deathloop PC code.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, when can I start this game? When can I actually get into it? Not now. Not on my lunch break tomorrow, because that's not a suitable game for children. So yeah, but
I'm interested about Deathloop. Interested in this looks like a game I'd hate to play. And I'm just like, how much would I not want to play this game?
But
I've seen a little bit of it, and it's just
how well did you get on with Dishonored?
The first Dishonored badly. I rented it and I was just like, I don't like this. I do want to give Dishonored 2 a fair shake, because I played like the first chapter of that, and immediately preferred it to what I played at the first Dishonored.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed Prey.
Yeah.
Just the atmosphere in that game. Unlike someone who loves like Alien and stuff like that, it's just
Yeah.
yeah. But I'm glad to see that this is getting good reviews
Mm.
because Arcade is just one of those devs that it's like I don't really play your games, but I'm rooting for you every time.
Yeah.
'Cause they do
Completely.
something different. So yeah,
And they do, and I've not played Deathloop yet. I well, I started it just to see how well it would run, because my PC is kind of mid-spec. It's not minimum. It's not recommended. It is in between that somewhere. And I thought, oh, let's just have a look and see how well it does. And it's super quick. Looks really good. Straight off, I've moved around the environment. Nothing has stuttered or anything yet.
Yeah.
So I've not done a huge amount. But yeah, so far so good. So at some point I will get to it.
I watched a little bit of gameplay and it looked kind of generic-y, like the whole like blaxploitation kind of like 60s setting looked really interesting.
Yep.
And I saw some gameplay and it's just like this looks like Rage 2. It's just like
Oh, I think I think there might be a little bit
aesthetic. So.
I think there might be a little bit of that in there, and there's absolutely different weapons that you can use and different. I think they call them trinkets, which might like up abilities and things like that in there as well. So it very much feels like a kind of. It's one of those games where I've got a gun. It's like almost like Bioshock. I've got a gun and I have an ability or something that I can kind of do. In the other hand, a move that I can pull off or something like that. But I mean, I'm really looking forward to getting into it and just seeing that that loop, how it runs through these different things. The idea that you have 8 targets and you've got to take them all down within a certain kind of time frame. But then if you fail, you start again. That it is almost that rogue element, but we'll see how that kind of plays out as well. And it's
I like to take my time in my stealth games. Yeah.
I mean, absolutely.
And if I fail, like if it's a Hitman, it's like a 3-minute run.
Yeah.
Rather than
and
I could just save all the time. I don't know if you can just save scum this game. If I couldn't save scum,
I can't imagine you can save scum this. Not at all. I think
that's why I'm just like I don't think this game's.
Yeah, I think that's the point of it as well, right? Yeah.
It's like because I'm one of those freaks who's just like if I don't get everything perfect, it's a restart. if Agent 47 does something weird or a character sees me from across the room or because a lot of these stealth Hitman is pretty busted sometimes. It's just like I'm just like I need to restart. So this game would it sounds like my worst nightmare.
I think Deathloop is a little bit more actiony than that. So if there are issues you can get out of them quite quickly. From what I've seen so far, but we'll come back. I think I'm gonna. It's a bigger game. I'm probably gonna get a review together for it as well, and stick that up when I've been able to actually get into it. But I think what I'm going to get into now is this next beer. I will crack it open and then we'll jump into another game that you're going to bring to us to chat about, Lucy. But first, I'm drinking Brew York's The Hoptimist 2021.
Oh, yeah. Oh, 2021.
2021. It's got Strata and Idaho 7 double IPA, 9.1%.
Ooh.
So, oh, wow, look at the web. It's like hop. It's all hop. Everything else is just like a rectangle through. The hops, I know it said on the front Strata and Idaho 7, but it's actually got CTZ T90, Summit T90, Strata T90, and Idaho 7, Cryo and T90. The Hoptimist was the original Brew York double IPA brewed back in 2017. And we really enjoy revisiting the recipe each year and showcasing the latest hop varieties. For 2021's release, we've combined Strata and Idaho 7 for layered notes of tropical fruits from the Strata, whilst the Idaho 7 brings zesty marmalade notes and a pleasant Earl Grey herbal character. It's 5 hops, dry hopped, sure. There's loads of information on the back, but that's kind of everything that is important, really. But yeah, there's what look like kind of hairs on the front now.
Yeah. Rabbity, hairy.
Yeah. In raspberry or a hop bush, I suppose. Everything looks very hoppy in terms of the lights that are going on it. But yeah, of course, Brew York's kind of standard aesthetic that they present there. But yeah, I sort of saw it and I kind of instantly picked it up, even though it was, it's 9.1. It's edging towards tipper territory.
Yeah, they don't tend to do dippers. Just tend to do like pales and then just
tons of stouts. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think I had the Hoptimist last year.
Yeah.
And then another one which was something to do with an eagle.
Oh yeah.
Which was really good from memory, at least. Yeah. So the head's gone instantly, and it's incredibly orange. So much more than the last beer. The nose is a little lighter though than the Overtone, and a little bit more bubblegummy in what it's putting out.
Yeah, the Eagle one is just called Big Eagle, and that's
Big Eagle. Yes,
that's actually 6.4% pale ale, I think. Yes, I am 18. Jesus.
Please just let me look at this website.
Yeah, that's a West Coast IPA, 6.4.
Yes. So the Hoptimist 2021. It kind of edges a little bit more towards that earthy dipper.
Okay.
But again, doesn't quite get there. It does almost want to stay a little bit in that juicy sort of area, but isn't quite. It's not kind of, unlike the Overtone, which kind of flowed between being juicy into then that kind of slightly hoppier kind of finish. This sort of sits somewhere in between, and that's its whole sort of flavour. It doesn't flow between these things. It's very flat, like incredibly flat. Feels like it does have a little bit of a zest, a little bit of a combination kind of at the beginning, but that peters out really quickly into this slightly creamy kind of finish. But apart from that, there's not a huge amount of stuff going on.
Okay.
There's no way this is 9.1%. They've absolutely lied on the can. Of course they haven't. It was only brewed about 6 weeks ago.
Nice.
On the 1st of the 7th. They give us 6 months as well, so best before the 1st of the 4th next year. But it doesn't quite have a big sort of hit to it. The 9.1 is gone completely, and kind of just replaced by this very solid flavour, but kind of like a creamy, slightly hoppy, but not too hoppy kind of flavour. They're saying that sort of Strata and Idaho 7 are the highlighted hops in this, with a few other kind of like backup hops, I guess. But zesty marmalade, I'm getting the zesty, but maybe not quite that orangey sort of flavour to it. It kind of hits zesty and then has this lovely kind of creaminess to it, and like if you had a cream egg, but it was just sort of like the fondant in the middle. It wasn't the chocolate egg itself. It's got that kind of flavour to it, like this very slight kind of artificial sweetness.
Okay.
This kind of, but again, with it being creamy, it kind of feels like it's something more like that fondant in the middle of a cream egg than just a sweetness or an oatiness or something like that. That combination is interesting, but it doesn't do very much more than that.
This is my issue. Everything you've said is my issue with like Brew York's pales and everything that isn't a stout, basically, or a quad from Brew York.
Yeah,
I haven't enjoyed. Like they've just been fine. Like there's not been anything amazing about them or particularly memorable about them. I don't know if it's like their house yeast or whatever that they use, but it's just like there's something that I'm just like, nah, like because I've got so many of these pale ales, and it's like, should I taste some more of these? Should I give another one a go? But then I'm just like,
yeah,
nah. And this is like, it's so weird because I genuinely think they make the best stouts in the country. So it's like it's just a weird one where it's like I'm so disappointed by the rest of their offerings, but I love their stouts.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah, everything that you were saying, I didn't want to say that before you had drank it. I didn't want to, like put any preconceptions in your mind, but it's just like, yeah, Brew York's beers that
yeah, I think we've had this chat before almost. It feels like we have about Brew York's kind of everything other than stout.
Yeah,
yeah,
because I've had pales and IPAs on here and said the exact same thing. It's just like they just don't do it for me.
Yeah. Well, I'll return to it at the end of the episode, but I will drink it as Lucy. You chat to us about another game that you have been playing.
Yeah, this is another relaxing game. It's called Lake. This came out maybe about 2 weeks ago. And it's about delivering mail in a very cozy, quiet, I'm guessing fictional town in Oregon called Providence Oaks. Who knows if there's a real Providence Oaks? There probably is a real Providence Oaks somewhere in America. There's Providence in Rhode Island, so there's probably a Providence Oaks. I don't know. But anyway, it's very, very picturesque, very scenic kind of town. It's basically centered like around this lake, and they've got like a dam, so and like these very beautiful mountains that kind of northwestern kind of like very small town kind of thing. And I'm someone who in like GTA games, probably the most time I spend in like those games is doing the very much generic taxi ride missions or the ambulance missions. It's just like I just want to go somewhere, pick something up and deliver it somewhere and just do that over and over again. So this game very much hit that kind of that part of my brain that just wants to go and deliver things. Yeah, the game is very simple. It's a 3D game, and it's it has this kind of nice, almost like kind of cel shady look to the characters, I guess. But it's a very nice, very colourful looking game. As I said, picturesque. You're driving around this, northwestern town. But it's simple. I think you can see the limitations of like probably the budget and maybe the dev team size. It's a small town. I think they do well with the space, but it's like you have this kind of like residential area. You have this you have the lake. You have like a motel, you have like a diner, very, very much hitting on that like kind of very much infrastructure of a small town. But there's only a handful of characters that you actually interact with, which is fine. I wasn't too upset about like there's only a few characters in that, but I think it's the fact that this game's set over like 2 weeks because you're basically this woman. She named Meredith. She lives in the big city. She's been away from this town. She grew up there, but she's been away from the town for like 20 years. She's got a job in computing, and this is the early 80s. So like, there's going to be a very much a boom soon. It's on that industry's on the way up, and you basically go back to your town for 2 weeks. You're basically doing her father's job. Her father and her mother, they've gone down to Florida, and it turns out like this isn't even a spoiler, I guess, because it's like it's obvious where this thing is going. It's like, do you stay in Providence Oaks or do you go back to the capitalist corporate grind? Like you have this really douchey manager who's like calling you saying, "Hi
Oh,
Meredith, can you do this? Can you do that?" He's basically riding on your coattails. He's the idiot who goes to like all the fratty
even though
parties.
you're on holiday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he, you're, and you're not even technically on holiday. You're still working. You're still delivering mail. You're basically just doing
Yeah.
your dad's
Yes.
job.
Yes.
It's like he's still asking you to do things. So it's like, do you go back to that kind of like very, let's say, corporate structure, life in the big city kind of thing, or do you stay in Providence Oaks? Because your parents, they've gone down to Florida, but like every middle class white person in America, they always retire in Florida. So that was obviously going to happen. Working class and middle class, I guess. Everyone retires in Florida for some reason. I don't get it, but it's just
It's hot, isn't it?
okay.
Full of
It's like,
hurricanes and tsunamis, but it's hot.
and it's conservative, so that's I don't know. But it's like,
You
which
can
way are you
shoot
gonna
who you
go?
want, and no one gives a shit. Like,
Yeah, so that's the choice it makes you make at the ending. And I will say that this is, usually in games like this, or games where there's a choice where it's like, do you go back to the corporate grind or do you stay, in the very, sleepy, slow, relaxing city? I mean, like town. Usually there's only one answer where it's like, of course I'm gonna, move back to my childhood town where it's slower and it's quieter and stuff like that. But this one actually, gave me moments to pause, and it's like, I actually went back to the city.
oh, okay,
So it's like, it. I'll give it credit where it's due. It was actually like sort of a more push and pull, like kind of what do I do kind of
yeah,
decision, as opposed to most games where it's like, I'll just forget the corporate grind. I'm going to build my Stardew Valley
yes,
like thing. So I'll give it that. But yeah, the characters that you meet in this town, it's like some of them you're reacquainting with, some of them you've never known before. It's like who are also new to the town. As I say, the amount of characters isn't the problem. I just think maybe I didn't mind too much, but it's like I can see why people would probably want more dialogue options, more of a relationship, more options to understand these characters and involve them in your life and stuff like that. It's very surface level. Everything's very surface level, and I say that's probably because of the limitations of the game, the
yep,
budget, etc. I mean, as I say, the world's like they do well with the space, but you could really the world is quite small. It's very limited. You are just driving this mail truck around the town delivering letters. It's like the mechanics are very simple. Um, I didn't find that a problem, but I can tell people it might do. It's like if people are going in looking for a more deep, enriching, experience, you're not going to find that. But I found it its simplicity was very relaxing.
sure,
Whereas like something like Toem is relaxing because of like the whole atmosphere and like it's very, charming and stuff like that. This is just very much, I am delivering mail. I can turn my brain off for a bit and deliver mail in this like kind of, nicely modeled little world. But as I say, if you're going for a more enriching like narrative experience, maybe, have a look at the game, see how it reviewed, see what people think, if that's what you're going for. Because I mean, at the start of the game, I was just like, some of these lines are delivered a bit stilted. Is this like a Deadly Premonition, like sweary game or something like that? And it's like, no, it's just a bit, as I say, a bit of the limitations of the game. Maybe like there's this old cat lady who's voiced by someone who's probably younger than me, so she
Mate,
sounds like a young woman.
I
Doing
played
an
I
old.
played the demo, and I met the old cat lady. She's like, "Hello,
Yeah.
how do you?" It's just me doing old cat lady. Yeah, no, I absolutely get that, but it
Yeah,
feels like
it's
this,
so charming.
and it feels like the depth of this game is more in the world building. It's not necessarily what happens to Meredith. It's more about the town
Yeah.
and all of these characters that kind of inhabit it and that sort of thing. And I think I don't know whether I completed the demo or not, whether there's an end point to that or whatever it was. But I remember kind of putting it down because of the controls
Okay.
first, but also because the narrative, or at least the characters, didn't quite grip me enough to sort of push through it.
Yeah.
And I think kind of my kind of question to you is, does that like open up? Are you then, do you get invested in kind of what Meredith is doing, or is it just, here is parcel to character A, here is parcel to character B, here's parcel to character C. I may then come back to character A at some point
Yeah.
and get a little bit more from them, or is there something a bit deeper in this?
Well, that's the thing. It feels like I think this is a bit harsh to say, but it feels like these narrative threads are a little half baked. Like
Okay.
they want you to have like this choice of like romance options as well. You can
Oh,
either go for a lumberjack or this woman who runs basically what is their blockbuster, which by the way was my favorite like place in the game. Just this blockbuster. Like
nice.
they talked about like she was a really big movie buff, and it's like you need to help her like deliver like portable VCRs to people so that it's like, here,
Can then
why
spend
don't you
money
watch
renting
Gremlins?
videos.
Yeah, yeah, and visit my store. But yeah, and they talk about like Jaws and
Hmm.
Gremlins and stuff like that. They use the real movie names, but when you go into the blockbuster, you have all the art of like the actual art that's like on the movie posters and
Oh.
film, but they changed the name. It's like Gremlins, and like instead of the fly, it's like the wasp or something like that. And it's it was just really, it's just a little store, and it's like clearly blockbuster. And it's like, yeah, look,
Yeah,
I just want
nice.
to stay in this place. Forget Providence Oaks. I just want to stay in this blockbuster.
You essentially
I want to
want
live
like
here.
Clerks, the film, but the game version in that block where everything just happens within. They can have all of these characters. They just come and they're just patrons of the blockbuster. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But I think that the characters being so one-dimensional is probably like, yes, you are just going to a small town where the people are pretty much one direction
Yeah.
dimensional anyway. It's like, oh, I cut down a tree today. I'm a lumberjack, and that's it. That's all this. It's like you don't. I mean, because I went for that kind of romance option because I'm boring and straight, and like I should have gone for Blockbuster Lady because she had Gremlins in store. So, but yeah, but it's like this lumberjack. I was just like, you're kind of boring dude as well. Like
Yeah. Yeah. But
Blockbuster
I
Lady.
mean, it's good that it's got that kind of option in there. But
Yeah,
again, you sort of want that. depth to it, and that's something that very much I enjoyed of Boyfriend Dungeon, was that there were lots of options in there, but everything felt like it had a depth to it.
And Boyfriend Dungeon had something to say, just like Road 96 has something to say. Because,
Yes.
like, when you're thinking like in the context of like, oh, we're in a very small town, probably very small conservative town. What does it mean to be like queer in the 80s? And like, that would have been an interesting, like, kind of like narrative thread. But I mean, the blockbuster lady, she leaves, she packs up and leaves because it's like not getting the traction in this town. Business is failing. I've moved here too soon. I used to be from LA. It's like, and she goes off on her adventures. And I just thought that was because I didn't pick her as a romance option.
Right.
But then I read somewhere that it's like someone picked that as a romance option, and she still left. So
Oh.
like, so I. That's what I'm saying. Everything's a bit one-dimensional. Everything's a bit simplistic, surface level. Kind of like this game doesn't. It feels like it has nothing to say, and I don't think it says much anyway. It does. It says small things like, yes, the corporate world is crappy and stuff like that. But then at the end of the game, I'm just gonna spoil everything here. It's like at the end of the game, it's like you're this really crappy boss who's like using your coattails. He offers you like a 20% stake in the company, which would probably never happen. And that's why I went back, because I was just like, I'm gonna be rich. I'll follow the money. Forget the quiet town of Providence Oaks. I'm gonna get my money. Because she's in like computer software, and it's like,
oh man, should be rich. Should be rich for fucking years.
That's what I'm saying. So it's just like, I could stay with Blockbuster Lady and like be in 20 years we're both broke, or I could have 20% stake in the company.
I would have absolutely loved it if and I don't know if the game does this or not, but whether you get to that end point, it's like, what do you want to choose? It's like, I'm going to go back to the city, and then it just fades to the back and goes, and she died, and and that's kind of it. You're like, oh good, yeah, brilliant, yeah. I can absolutely see that would happen. Yeah.
But there was, I liked some of the writing in it. Like when I said to the lumberjack, like when I was leaving and he chased me down the road, it was probably meant to be very romantic rom-com kind of thing, and he was like, stay, and I was like, I can't. And I was like, why don't you come with me? And he was like, no, I like it in Providence Oaks too much. And I said, and the line was like, you'd expect me to stay, but this connection isn't strong enough where, I can't expect you to leave. It's like, well, what do you want from me?
Yep.
So I go both ways. But yeah, I really enjoyed my time.
Good.
I kind of wish it was more like Deadly Premonition, like kind of like a sweary game where it's just like batshit weird, and like these small town people are just weird. But I think it's got such a charm to it. It's just weirdly so. Like, I was just happy like going around delivering mail, and it's like, as I said, it hit that kind of very checklist thing off in my brain, and it was just nice to drive around. I mean, like the mail truck is just like, unwieldly behemoth to
big
like
old
drive.
box. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like you're doing handbrake turns in it or anything like that. It was just like, you could probably give me a game where you could give me Cookie Clicker or something where I just make stamps, and it's just like, it just hits that kind of dopamine in my brain where it's like, I've just checked off a list, and it's like, I've delivered all my mail today. And yeah, the story, the characters were charming enough. As I said, I really liked Meredith as a character. Yeah, it's just a nice experience, but don't go into it thinking you're gonna get, a very enriching narrative.
Yeah. That's it. It's a nice experience, right? And as you say, it's not that kind of like sweary kind of level of insanity that you're not delivering a birthday or a gift wrapped scythe to someone, and you open the door and they're like, hello, and kind of, very morose, and sort of you're giving them this weapon, like, oh shit, something's gonna go down. Like, it doesn't have that to it. It's all very kind of, yes, absolutely, and it all feels quite mundane in sort of what's happening.
It's mundane, but in a good way. It's not like mundane as in Call of Duty. It's like, I'm just shooting the same thing. Shooting the Russians again.
Yep.
It's like I'm, in this mundane, like quiet, northwestern town, and I'm just doing this mundane job. I mean, they even play on it, kind of like the limitations of it. Like, there's one radio station, and they say it's a small town. Of course, only one radio station. It's someone in his barn playing, being a DJ for.
I mean, like, I wonder. It'd be interesting to see how this hits with, like, American people who live in these smaller kind of communities, or even English people who live in kind of, England's a weird place, right? Because even if you live in a village, you probably get like 10 radio stations coming through on FM or whatever the aerial is kind of within your area. Whereas with America being so sort of large, maybe not so much now, but absolutely in the 80s, it'd be interesting to see someone who kind of lived through this era play this and be like, yeah, this is absolutely how it was. So yeah, I'd be kind of, as with Road 96, going through those different narrative things. I'm going to be Googling Lake man who lived through 80s or something stupid like that, just to see if someone has some thoughts of being like, yeah, it was this shit. That's why everyone moved to the city.
Yeah, and it's got very positive reviews on Steam. So yeah, Gamius is a developer, and Whitehorn Digital sent over a code. So thank you very much, because I really enjoyed this game.
Yeah,
it's sweet. Very charming and very very mundane. Imagine, put that as a box quote. Very mundane.
I think it should be incredibly mundane. Should be the box quote.
In a fantastic way. But
nice.
I did encounter one or two bugs.
Oh.
I remember. This just made me love the game even more. Basically, you can take pictures on like a Polaroid. And, this woman, she's like, oh, taking photos is like the new thing, and she's very like upset because she has to learn how to develop photos in a store. She's like, oh, just another thing to learn. The man wants me to do this, that, and the other thing. She's like, here's a camera. Go take some photos. And I went and took some photos. And there's a bug in the game where it's like none of them. When she's like, here you go, every one of them is black. It's just like, there's nothing there. It's like it didn't register the photo. Which is just hilarious, because I just took it to mean that it's like this woman developed my photos. She didn't care.
She's just shit at her job.
I just didn't care. That's how I chose.
That's amazing.
Absolutely. But, there are little bugs like that, and like one day, I was just transported to the lumberjack's house, and without my mail truck. It was like, where's my mail truck? And it's like, it's back at like the Royal Mail Depot.
Did you have to run the entire way back?
There's no run. There's a walk and slightly faster walk, and I was like, I'm just gonna reload and see if that sorts it, and it did. But I was just like, oh no, I'm like all the way across this map. Am I gonna have to walk all the way? Which would have been hilarious and would have been like very nice. Like
staying over with the lumberjack was a bad choice.
It would have taken like 3 hours. It's like times. I'm gonna reload to say, but yeah, little buggy. It's just so charming in that. Um, uh, I wanted briefly, as in like I haven't even finished this game. Briefly
Oh.
talk about. Just say that I've been playing the Forgotten City.
Oh yes. Yeah.
Which is, I mean, people have described it in. They've said like Hitman, which is not really, but they said like Return of the Obra Dinn. They said it's like, you know, looping, time loop game, and it's based on like a Skyrim mod. A few
Yes.
fans, I think, made a Skyrim mod over several years, and they've released it as a full title. And it's like, yeah, like I love Skyrim. I just wanted, this is why I love Eastshade so much, because that's like a Skyrim mod. If someone told me it was a Skyrim mod, I'd absolutely believe them. I just want something where you're just like, I'm just in this town, and there's no like real combat or anything like that. I'm just talking to these weird people, weird anthropomorphic people, and that game felt like it was gonna collapse at any moment as well. So, but it didn't, and that's the charm of it. But yeah, the Forgotten City Skyrim mod. It's about you're basically in this like ancient Roman city, and you gotta figure out how to get out of there because there's like this thing called the Golden Rule, where if anyone commits a sin, everyone gets turned into gold.
Oh.
And that's not a spoiler, that's right at the beginning of the game. And it's like, I've got to get out of here without committing any sins, and someone's going to commit a sin at the end of the day, got to find out who it is, and you're basically in this time loop.
Oh, it's like a detective kind of thing.
Very detective.
Oh, okay.
And I'm not going to say anymore, it's very story heavy. And I don't know how far I'm in it, but there have been some revelations, and it's just one of those where it's like, okay, I'm in it now. I just want to keep playing. I want to see what's happening.
Yeah.
And it sort of brings on that like kind of real world knowledge where it's sort of like the Obra Dinn. It's like, okay, I know, tangential like kind of knowledge about like, I don't know, seafaring and like empires and countries back in like the 1700s or whatever it is. It's like it brings in real world knowledge, and in this game and it kind of like twists like what a game is on its head. It's very, because it's like you can't commit a sin like most games. Like, people just do stupid shit. Like when an NPC's talking, you usually just try and fire a gun at their head and just jump around them and stuff. Yeah, just to see. But it's like in this game, it's like if I do that, everybody dies and the loop resets, and it's like it's sort of like
interesting,
a mix of like the Outer Wilds and Return of the Obra Dinn and stuff like that. Just very good games.
Nice.
But yeah,
nice.
this is fascinating, and I want to play more.
Ooh. From the sounds of it, this is something everyone should be playing, and probably then we'll have a chat about it in
do a
couple of weeks time or something like that. Yeah, definitely. Ooh,
yeah, it's definitely one of those word of mouth ones. I was like, oh, ex Skyrim mod, that's fun. And then like I've heard on like podcast people just like, yeah, this is the shit. So
nice,
and it is so far.
Okay, cool. We'll
play it.
We'll have a chat about it. I'll take a look at it. Good. Yeah. Okay. So I think that's a good point for us to finish this week. A little bit of a shorter episode. Not that much, really. But yeah. We trucked through a few games that we've enjoyed.
Mail truck.
For the beers, I mean, if you've listened to the entire episode, it's the Overtone for me. I think that's probably obvious. Absolutely flowed through those flavours that it presented. The Brew York, kind of just a little bit too flat for me, really. Yes, it had some flavour to it, but it didn't present itself as well as the Overtone, which moved through these flavours, moved through a mouthfeel as well. Gave me a booziness. It did a lot for an 8.5% dipper. It did a hell of a lot, and was different to a lot of the other dippers that I have had over the last few weeks. And whilst the flavour profile of the Brew York, the Hoptimist 2021, was different than a lot of those dippers, it was maybe a bit too one note and kind of didn't do much through it, even at least to signify it as a dipper. Doesn't feel that big, whereas something Pew Pew, finger guns Pew Pew, absolutely big beer, big flavour, loads of booze to it. It's absolutely really well made. So that's my pick this week. So that's it. That's the beers. That's the games. Lucy, if people want to chat to you about beers and games, how do they do that?
Alright, it's Juicy Loose 9 everywhere.
Amazing. You can get me at Nova_47 almost everywhere. If you want to talk to all of us, Adel included, who will be back next week. I don't think we confirm that. Or the week after. At some point. We are Tanked Up Cast over on Twitter. You can also go to outoflives.net to see all of the things that we write up, produce, the videos that we make, the games that we play, or just the discussions that we have as well. There's loads of stuff over there. So go to outoflives.net or Out of Lives Network on the socials and YouTube and those sort of things to see our beautiful faces, look at the beers that we have been drinking. Or you can come to Out of Lives Network over on Twitch to watch us every Tuesday/Wednesday, dependent on the week and when football's on, or the guests that we have, or the need that we have that week. We'll see how that happens going further. But go to Out of Lives like that, and there's lots of other, not Out of Lives, no, Twitch, Out of Lives Network. There's VODs and things of various streams of things. Steph is currently going through Life is Strange True Colours as well, so you can catch their playthrough of that over on the Twitch, and it will be on the YouTube as well. If you are a YouTube viewer, that will be up on there in the coming weeks as well. But they're the beers, they're the games, they're the places that you can get all of us at. That's it for this week. We've been Tanked Up. We will see you next week. Goodbye.
Ciao.
www.outoflives.net